one of their hosts on the SEC Network, Peter Burns. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? It does just mean more.
It does.
It's nice. We already got one dub in the books for the conference, and my goodness, it was ugly. But yeah, now we finally get some football, and Thursday night we get A&M, and then the rest of the slate coming up on Saturday.
You know, I had Wes Durham on yesterday from the fledgling ACC Network. You know, y'all were a baby at one point. Y'all were tiny, and I asked him if he was going to they were going to try to assert their dominance. Maybe he and Packer take on you and Dari in like an arm wrestling contest or something. Like, are you concerned that they might try to come in and assert their dominance over the behemoth that is the SEC Network?
Let's just say I'm not worried. We'll put it that way. And listen, they're teammates to a certain extent. You know, we're partnered up over at ESPN, so I'm pulling for them. But you know, when I saw the day after the day after the Florida-Miami game, like on Monday, and I saw that they were talking like Wake Forest basketball, I'm like, yeah, I think SEC fans know when it comes to college football, we'll still be number one. So, but then again, man, listen, everybody, including Alabama and Georgia, they're chasing Clemson right now, so they at least have that bragging right, and everybody's trying to catch them, and that's a good thing, you know, keeping everybody on their toes.
And that's what's interesting to me because, you know, you look at it in football, the SEC certainly has a much more rabid following in football. And the ACC, you know, is trying to play catch up, and obviously that we all know that. But then come basketball season, the ACC's got it in spades. The SEC is playing catch up. But then come baseball season, softball season, the SEC's back on top. You know, they've got, you know, every team is in the top 25 at some point. It seems like to me, it's interesting how the networks are going to be able to showcase their various strengths throughout the course of the year, and how the ACC kind of fills in a gap in terms of that college basketball.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, too, that I've seen kind of even change with the way basketball has been played in this conference. I mean, if you look at the collection of coaches outside the ACC right now, you know, with Tom Crean going to Georgia, you know, and you got Oates now at Alabama, and you got Bruce Pearl and Rick Barnes and Coach Cal. I mean, I think the SEC basketball product is actually taken a little bit, you know, a step up. And part of that is because, listen, they were sick and tired of having basketball games on the network that were bad. It was bad when it was bad television, and I think now that they looked at it and said, hey, we need to put more of an effort into SEC basketball, and they have. But you know, I mean, when it comes to this time of year, everybody is all dialed into football, and that's really kind of the lifeblood of the Southeast, right? Is college football. So we'll have plenty of time to talk SEC basketball. Let's talk some SEC pigskin right now.
Well, no, and why wouldn't you? It's a heck of a league, and it's certainly not bad to focus on. What did you take from the Florida-Miami game?
That I was hoping that Felipe Franks would have, you know, matured not only as a football player but as a leader and really as a passer as well too. And I don't think I saw any of that. I mean, I saw you know, glimpses of it. You know, the pass to Josh Hammond late in the game in the fourth quarter, that was solid. Made a couple of good throws, but again, even the antics on the sidelines, the antics post game, by punting the ball and taking an Instagram dig at Desmond Howard. It's, you know, I remember Felipe telling me over at Media Days, hey, I'm going to be much more of a, you know, not subdued, but just more of lead by example rather than talking a bunch of trash. And sure enough, the first game, it's like, oh, back to the old Felipe. So, again, that's as bad as Florida, I think, could play a game this entire season, and yet they still had enough talent to win. That tells me how much talent Dan Mullen has on that squad in Gainesville.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is he's always been sort of the QB guru. Seems like every quarterback he touches turns to gold, but Felipe Franks isn't really what we're used to seeing with a Dan Mullen quarterback. He doesn't really have that run option that you think about in Dan Mullen's offenses. Do you think he's just having to make do until he gets what he wants at that position?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think that he looked at Kyle Trask was on that as that roster, and Emory Jones is intriguing as a talent, but he's not close to where Felipe is. And I think Dan understands that. You know, that Dan doesn't have the next Dak Prescott there. He doesn't have, you know, Alex Smith that he had at Utah or Tim Tebow. He's got Felipe Franks. And, you know, last year, guess what? I mean, Dan won 10 games with going to Felipe, especially down the stretch. So I think that they'll continue to go as far as Felipe will take them. The good news is they have a damn strong defense, and Dan Mullen probably is as good as any coach of grinding out a win when they shouldn't win one. I mean, they shouldn't have beat LSU last year. They did. They shouldn't have beat Mississippi State, and they did. And they probably shouldn't have beat Miami with how many times they kicked themselves in their own toes. Yet they did find a way to get that W.
Talking to Peter Burns from the SEC Network. So we all know Alabama. Alabama is the team. Are we really supposed to believe this year that someone's going to usurp them? That Georgia's either going to beat them in the championship game, or LSU is going to find a way. Maybe A&M, someone on the West is going to find a way to take them down, or is it mad Alabama comes out and just does what they have been doing and just besieges the SEC?
Yeah, I would think it's the latter, exactly what you said there. And the fact, if you just look at that roster, I mean, they hardly lost anybody on that offensive side. And when you bring Tua and listen, you have the Biletnikoff Award winner. Now, the Biletnikoff Award, if you don't know, goes to the best wide receiver in all of college football, right? If your listeners didn't know that, that's who it is. That guy's not even listed as the A1 starter. It's an and/or. It's like Judy, Waddle, Ruggs, Devontae Smith. I mean, it's unbelievable the weapons that they have at that position. I think the difference is this year they're dialed in. I think last year they got complacent because it got so easy for them and they were doing so well that everybody kind of started looking at, all right, it's like playing a video game in which it's not hard anymore, right? We've already put the contra code in.
It's on the rookie. It's on the rookie level.
Right, yeah. And all of a sudden they went up straight up to Heisman mode against the Clemson team and smacked them in the mouth. And I think, I came away from media days impressed with Tua about, he had all the right in the world to be as cocky as he wanted to going into media days. And it was just like, I genuinely believed him when he said, listen, like, I've got to get a lot better, and I let the team down. And I'm like, dude, you almost had the Heisman won, like, as a sophomore. Like, what are we talking about? But I think that's the level of concern that Nick brought to this Alabama team in the offseason. And they're as talented as anybody. I mean, the problem is everybody comes for them, and now Georgia is equally as talented on a roster-wise, and probably have a better offensive line, and just as good maybe of a quarterback as Alabama has.
Are we sure about that? I mean, I like Fromm a lot, but are we sure he's Tua?
I love Fromm. I love Fromm for the leadership standpoint. And not that Tua's not a leader. I think Tua, I mean, the throws he makes, how quick his release is great. But there's just something about when I go to practice, and I've been to Alabama practices, and I watch Tua, and it's great. Like, there's something, and magical is such a stupid word to use, but it felt that way the first time I saw him practice down in Athens. Like, I remember going down there because I wanted to see Jacob Eason, and I went down and I asked Jim Chaney, and I'm like, who's this kid that's running the team right now, the second team? He goes, that's Jake Fromm. That kid may be my starter by the end of the season. And sure enough, look at what Fromm did. That was as a true freshman. And so there's certain guys that just have, like, the whole team gravitate towards them. That's what he has in Jake Fromm. And, Patrick, I'm telling you, this offensive line, I hear it from Stinchcomb, I hear it from Cole Kubelik, who loves his offensive line play. Mm-hmm. They say that this is arguably an NFL offensive line playing in college football. And, by the way, they don't just go 5 deep. They go about 7 or 8 deep on that O-line for Georgia. That's music to any Bulldog fan ear.
Yeah, it's what you want. Talking to Peter Burns from the SEC Network. All right, Peter. So, who besides Georgia in the East? Is there another team out there? And obviously, everyone in Louisiana knows who I'm kind of angling toward. But is there another team? Let's throw out LSU right now because I think everyone here thinks they'll win the thing anyway. Is there another team that you look at and say, okay, that's a squad that could jump up and bite somebody and maybe be a spoiler?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a spoiler as opposed to coming in and winning the West. The only team I have that can win the West outside of Alabama is LSU. I mean, it is Alabama in its own tier, along with Georgia, and then that second tier in the SEC is LSU and LSU alone. I put Florida in this third tier. I put A&M in this third tier, put Missouri in that third tier, but LSU is the only team that can do it. Now, Auburn is intriguing because Auburn's a team that could, have 3 losses and go in the Iron Bowl and knock them off, right? Remember that game's in Jordan-Hare this year, and they're going to be talented, especially as Bo Nix gets a little bit better. And so for me, I think that's really the situation brewing forward, is that A&M and Auburn can both play spoilers. They can both play spoilers, but LSU is the only team that could actually win the West.
Is everyone, and we do? I think we do this every year. Is everyone sleeping on Missouri? I mean, they did win. They did win the East
I said it
twice.
on our show locally on SiriusXM. I think Missouri ends up being undefeated before they go into Athens in early November. I think that they're a team that's just, this whole bowl ban has kind of brought them together in a weird way. I love the fact that they're going to Laramie, Wyoming for the opener, because I think that's just kind of a cool road trip to get the guys all on the same page, and they shouldn't have a problem with Wyoming. But you look at their schedule right now, they should be undefeated, or I know they'll at least be favored in every single game until they go to Athens on like November the 2nd or November the 3rd. So, again, it reminds me of what Kentucky, Patrick, had to deal with last year, where they had a chance to flip it when Georgia came into town, but Georgia was just too dang good.
Peter Burns from the ACC Network joining us. Maybe a surprise player or two, Peter, guys that, either someone who's going to take that next step or someone that's going to come completely from out of nowhere and everyone's going to learn who they are.
Yeah, a couple guys, and I'm going to go LSU guys because LSU's on my mind, and I think the tight end position between Thaddeus Moss and Stephon Sullivan. I think Joe Brady, brought a little bit of the concepts that they use from the Saints. I mean, we've heard that over and often, often, but
sure,
a lot of it was talking about, what they are able to do with Jimmy Graham in his heyday. And, Stephon's a 6'4" guy. Thaddeus is a big guy as well, too. They've been getting a lot of reps. And I'm really curious to see what John Emery can do. Remember, he was a highly touted running back that was a true freshman. He was not in spring camp, although, and it's weird, right? Whenever we hear highly touted guys, we almost always think they're going to graduate high school early.
Yeah.
He actually graduated on time. But I know talking to people around LSU, they think that if he can pick up some of the pass protection stuff, the thing to keep Burrow, chip blocking and protection a little bit, they think that he could be the next great running back down in the 225.
Yeah, and I've from some of my people, I've heard he's even better than they thought he would be, and that's saying something.
And Derek Stingley as well too. I mean,
the corner,
it's amazing about every time we talk about with Grant Delpit, we were asking him, hey man, how good of a player you are, and how good is this defense? Every single time Delpit was asked a question about Grant Delpit, he answered was almost to the fact of, I wish I was as good as Derek Stingley. And you have like an All-American talking about a true freshman cornerback like that. That should excite LSU fans coming into Saturday night.
Well, there's no doubt which school DBU is. I mean, there's zero doubt about that. Hey,
well, especially as bad as Florida's secondary looked late in that game, where they almost single-handedly tried to do it. I mean, DBU is always going to be LSU. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm curious about the transfer portal, because you mentioned Jacob Eason, and now he's been named the starter at Washington, and Kelly Bryant left Clemson, and he's the starter at Mizzou, and Justin Fields left, and now you're seeing where these transfers are coming in and being named starters. And the native guys, the guys that the schools are recruiting, are now putting themselves in the transfer portal. Have we kind of opened up a can of worms with this thing, or are you a free agency for the players, just let them go wherever they want to go?
Yeah, I mean, think about Tommy Stevens going from Penn State, and he's a graduate guy, but going from Penn State to Mississippi State. Now Keaton Thompson was scheduled to take that job. He puts his name in the transfer portal, so now Moorhead has to basically re-recruit a quarterback that was there. I mean, again, I'm going to go sports radio faux pas here and completely be a horrible guess when I say it's too early to tell. And, anybody who says the transfer portal is ruining college football, they haven't looked at the idea of, hey, sometimes a kid needs a new spot, right? Like he just needs a fresh start. And somebody who says, oh, it's no problem whatsoever, doesn't understand how many kids have put their name in the transfer portal and are not going to get scholarships because they're all spoken for. So I really do think the transfer portal, like any of these rules and the targeting rule or anything the NCAA does, it takes about 4 years for us to take a step back and go, okay, this is the pros and this is the cons. Overall, I don't like it. I lean towards that way because I'm afraid we're going to have college coaches, as soon as they get an opportunity to go to the NFL now, are going to say, you know what, that's a lot easier. It's not 365. I don't have to re-recruit my players.
Right.
I can have an off season. And I think that's why so many people are looking at what, Cliff Kingsbury does at Arizona right now to see if that works. Well, then, hey, Lincoln Riley's next. And what other coaches go next?
When are we golfing, man?
Well, hey, you tell me. I better get it in now.
Yeah.
You can hear my daughter in the background.
Yeah.
Her birthday, her 2-year-old birthday is her second birthday is coming up on Halloween, and I got baby boy number 1 due on Halloween. So it better be in the next 6 to 8 weeks, because if not, the clubs are going to be getting some cobwebs in front.
Yeah. Well, it's about to get look. As they always say, once you get outnumbered, you're in trouble. So far, you're still good. You can still play man-to-man. But once you get outnumbered and have to go zone, you're in trouble.
I've told my wife, if we have a third kid, I can't wait to meet the guy that she has it with, because there's no way I'm having more than 2. And I love my baby girl, and I'm sure I will love my boy, but I'm not going to be like Jacob Hester. I'm not going to have a minivan full of 19 kids rolling around.
Yeah, poor. I feel bad for the Hesters, man. They're on that Phillip Rivers train. He went out there and met Phillip, and now all of a sudden he's got 11 kids. So, we love our boy that precedes us here on Hanging with Hester. Peter, all right, so just kind of final thing. It's Alabama and Georgia. Are we predicting anything weird after that? Is it just going to be Alabama, Georgia?
I'm a diehard LSU fan, and I'd love to say it's different. I'm saying that Alabama still ends up being the West, but that doesn't preclude LSU from a playoff. I think LSU goes 11-1. They run the table outside losing to Alabama, and that could be good enough to get them into the college football playoff, just like Alabama was in 2017 when they won it.
Funny thing is, I also predicted LSU to go 11-1, but I predicted them to beat Bama and lose to A&M in the final game of the regular season.
Oh, Lord. If that happened, it would be shades of 2007 when they lost to Arkansas, and they thought they were out of the BCS on that triple overtime game. So,
all I know is, man, it's here, and I know we're all just as happy as can be that it's here. And, man, I appreciate you coming on. We'll get you on as the season progresses.
Anytime. Love talking football with you. Later, guys.
All right, Peter Burns, SEC Network. Good stuff.